everyone, and welcome to Quiz and Hers, the trivia podcast where we compete for something that we have not yet decided.
Yep.
I'm Hallie, and I'm here with my fiance, Justin.
Hello.
I will be the quiz mistress today. Justin will be answering and probably getting things wrong. Maybe. We'll see. Anyway, the categories are, in no particular order, history, geography, science, sports and games, arts and lit, and sounds and screen, which is movies, music, and TV? Yeah, TV. Yeah. All right. So each game has 6 questions, which we will try to answer. Our records so far after the first 3 games are 6 points for me and 5 points for Justin. I'll be asking 6 questions today and then talking a little bit about the topic.
Yes.
So today's theme is in Vino Veritas.
Okay.
So all the questions are related to one of our favorite things.
Yes.
Wine.
Excellent.
Which we love. Question 1. It's a history question.
Okay.
Which Prussian pioneer of winemaking in Napa Valley owned a winery in St. Helena, which was then purchased by Robert Mondavi's parents in 1943 and was where Mondavi began his wine career until founding his own winery in 1966?
Jeez.
I have to catch up here. You see, like the questions will be a little bit harder. I think I went a little too easy on you last time.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Okay.
Okay. You said Prussian with a P, right?
Prussian with a P.
Okay. Prussian winemaking pioneer in Napa Valley. Good Lord. So Mondavi's parents bought his winery in 1943, he said?
Yep.
So he was established prior to that then.
Mm-hmm.
All I can think of is Gallo. I think that might be Italian, but I can't think of any other, well-known California winemaking families. So I will say Gallo.
No.
Okay.
But you'll probably know once I say it.
Okay.
Because I don't know if we mentioned this in the last episode, but we both took this wine class at Cornell in which we did learn some wine history.
Yep.
And I checked my notes, and we did learn about this.
Okay.
His name is Charles Krug.
Yep. Okay.
You've heard of him.
I have. Yep.
So I'm going to talk a bit about Charles Krug and sort of get a little bit more into the Mondavi family after that.
Okay.
So Charles Krug visited the United States in 1847 and became a citizen in 1852. In 1851, he was an apprentice winemaker for Agustin Harazzi, who was often referred to as the father of California viticulture, and was the founder of Buena Vista Winery in Sonoma, which is the oldest commercial winery in the state.
Huh.
So that's a good name, I guess, but it's really
Say it
hard to
again?
pronounce. Harazzi?
Harazzi.
Yeah, there's like an S followed by a
How do you spell
Z.
that?
S followed by a Z.
No, I mean the whole thing. How do you
Followed by
spell
a T-H-Y. H-A-R-A-S-Z-T-H-Y. I don't know where he was from, sorry.
Harazzi. Okay.
That's the oldest commercial winery in California.
Huh. All right.
So Krug was also an apprentice for John Patchett, who was the first person to plant a commercial vineyard and build a commercial wine cellar in Napa Valley.
Okay.
In 1860, Krug married Carolina Bale, the daughter of Edward Turner Bale, who built the Bale Grist Mill between St. Helena and Calistoga. And the important part about this is that her dowry included 540 acres of land north of St. Helena, which was where Krug planted a vineyard, and founded his winery in 1861, which he called Charles Krug Winery.
So this is, really old.
Really old.
1860. This is Civil War era.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
So you'll see, we sort of... I'll talk more about
Go on.
So, in his time with the winery, he introduced new ideas to the winemaking business in California, such as using a cider press for pressing the grapes and carefully selecting his rootstocks, varietals, and vineyard sites.
As opposed to just growing and planting whatever the hell you could get your hands on.
I guess. I mean, I think
Yikes.
because wine in Europe is so old that it's so established that this at the time wasn't even a thought in people's minds, and people didn't really know about how to carefully select things because everything was just there and doing fine.
Yeah, that makes sense. This was pre-phylloxera as well, so they wouldn't have had to think about replanting very much.
I don't really talk much about phylloxera, but sorry.
No, that's okay.
So after Krug's death, James Moffett Sr. purchased the winery in 1894. Moffat was Krug's close friend and admirer. He used the residence and gardens as a country home and leased the vineyards and winery until Prohibition led to a dormant period in winemaking. So this was like even pre-Prohibition and everything.
Yeah.
2 of Charles Krug's children remained in charge of the wine growing operations until that time. So even though Moffat owned the winery, it was still Krug's family that were growing the grapes and everything. So basically, Moffat owned it this whole time. Prohibition happened. Nothing really, got going.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to 1943, Robert Mondavi convinced his parents to purchase the inactive winery from Moffat for $75,000. And Moffat wanted his own...
They didn't get back to business after Prohibition.
No, they didn't. It's sort of... I think because Moffat wasn't really invested in it.
Okay.
It was just kind of like a nice house with a nice view.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then I'm not really sure what happened with Krug's kids.
Okay.
I guess they just moved
on. Probably found something else to do. Yeah.
Yeah, like Prohibition happens. You don't know that it's going to end or when it's going to end or anything. So they just sort of moved on.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So Moffat wanted his own children to carry on the wine growing business after Prohibition, but they didn't want to. So he sold it to the Mondavis.
Okay.
Robert Mondavi, along with his father Cesare and his brother Peter.
Cesare?
I don't know. That sounds fancy, but it could be like Cesare Borgia.
Is that how it's spelled? Cesare?
Yeah, it could be.
It's probably
All
Cesare.
right. So his father Cesare and his brother Peter, they all ran the winery together until Robert and Peter had a feud over the business direction of the winery. Then at that point in 1966, Robert started the Robert Mondavi Winery in Oakville, California with his sons Michael and Tim. Their goal was to create wines that could compete with the fine French wines. Michael was in charge of sales and marketing, and Tim was the winemaker. And Robert Mondavi Winery was the first major winery built in Napa after Prohibition, which is crazy because it was 1966.
Yeah, wow.
So it seems like wine was ready to take off, and then Prohibition just shut it all down.
Yep.
And then after Prohibition, people were kind of nervous to get back.
Makes sense,
Mondavi had his eye on it. So
yep.
Mondavi supported the idea that wineries should name their wines after the varietal, which for those who don't know is the name of the grape.
Yeah.
Rather than the region, which is done in Europe and what has been traditionally done for centuries, however long.
This is why American wines are called Cabernet and Merlot, not where
Bordeaux.
Yeah, right.
Well, not that they would call it Bordeaux, but, not like Napa.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
so basically, I was about to say, this is now the accepted way of labeling wine at New World wineries. Mondavi made one of the first Sauvignon Blancs in California and called it Fumé Blanc, which is now an accepted synonym for Sauvignon Blanc.
That I knew.
I'm not sure why, if he was so into calling it by the varietal, that he gave it a new name, but maybe just to distinguish it from Sauvignon Blancs from other places. In 1979, Mondavi built the Mondavi Woodbridge Winery, and that became a leader of popular premium wines. He also partnered with Baron Philippe de Rothschild. Is it Rothschild or Rothschild? I never know.
Rothschild.
Okay, Rothschild. To create Opus One Winery, which is pretty famous.
Opus One is what my parents drink on their anniversary.
I know.
Which I think is cool. So that's cool that you got that in there.
Yep.
Hi, Dad. Thanks for listening.
Oh, my God.
All right, move on.
See, I was going to mention something about Adam Lambert when you were talking about Muse and say hi to my mom, but I was like, no, that's lame.
You can do that.
Go
ahead.
Now.
Do it now.
Hi, Mom. Woohoo.
What does Adam Lambert have to do with Muse?
He sings Starlight.
Oh, okay.
And they like him, and they're like friends.
Okay. That didn't come up in my research.
Okay. Since the 1990s, he has set up joint ventures with partners in Europe, South America, and Australia.
Is he still alive?
I'm getting there.
Okay. Sorry.
In 2003, Mondavi criticized his sons for emphasizing the winery's less expensive lines called Coastal and Woodbridge over the premium wines, which caused the company to lose its association with fine wines. So Mondavi was always about having good wines that could rival, European wines, and his sons just kind of wanted to be the everyman wines, and that did not make him very happy. In 2004, Constellation Brands acquired the Mondavi Winery, and afterwards Robert Mondavi partnered with his son Tim and his daughter Marcia to create Continuum Estate and make a single wine at the highest level. It's a blend of Cab Sauv, Cab Franc, Petit Verdot, and Merlot. Continuum is still run by Robert's children and grandchildren. Robert Mondavi died in 2008 at the age of 94.
Just goes to show you, wine is good for you.
Yeah, exactly. So he had a pretty long, fulfilling life, and his kids still run the winery, and there's still Robert Mondavi Winery, which I have been to.
Yep.
It's nice. But yeah, the family doesn't own that one anymore, but they own Continuum Estate if you ever want to try wine made by the Mondavi hands.
I just might.
All right, next question is a geography question. Which town in western South Africa, which is known as the City of Oaks in Afrikaans and Dutch, gives its name to a wine route that is known for producing the best quality wines in the country?
It's the name of the town is the name of a grape?
The name of the town is the name of a wine route.
Route.
Yeah.
I don't know
It's
what
like
that
a
means.
popular wine route. You'll know. You know.
Oh, Pinotage?
No.
That's
a
South
grape.
Africa. Yeah, I know, but
It's not a grape. It's a place.
wine route, R-O-O-T?
No, sorry. Wine route.
Oh, like for wine.
Sorry.
Like for
I say
wine
route.
tours, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, what are you talking about? Like wine. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Pronunciation problems.
It is a route on which wine tours happen.
Yeah, that's also the name of this wine route.
Okay. So it's the name of the town and the wine route. I may not know this.
You do.
Is it?
I'm stumping him.
You said it's called the Town of Oaks.
The City of Oaks.
City of Oaks. Okay. So, all right.
Afrikaans and Dutch.
What South African cities do I know? So it's obviously not Cape Town. That's just called Cape Town. It's not Bloemfontein because fontaine means fountain. I think that means like blue, like flower fountain or something.
Sure.
Could be Pretoria. I don't think it's. Well, could it be Johannesburg? Berg does mean city. Does Johannes mean oak? I don't know. I don't think it does.
I think it's a name, but okay.
It is, but I mean, names often come from words, right? So, and could it be Pretoria, which is the other capital? I don't think I know this. I'm gonna just go ahead and guess Johannesburg.
You're gonna kick yourself.
All right, what is it?
Stellenbosch.
No, I'm not gonna kick myself.
Really?
No.
I totally know this. Like, I feel like I would have gotten this.
No, I'm definitely not gonna kick myself for that one.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
All right. Anyway, I feel like we've had wine from there.
Maybe.
Okay. You've heard of it? No?
I mean, it sounds vaguely familiar.
Really?
But
Okay. I feel like I really know
really know anything about it.
Like, I thought of it.
Okay.
Anyway, it is 30 miles east of Cape Town.
Okay.
Which is the legislative capital of South Africa.
Yes. Pretoria is the executive capital, and Bloemfontein is the judicial capital.
Show off.
And Johannesburg is the largest city, because this makes no sense.
So you had 4 choices.
And they were all wrong. Yep, good.
Anyway, it is named after its founder, Simon van der Stel, and Stellenbosch translates to Stel's Bush.
Okay.
It is known as the City of Oaks in Afrikaans and Dutch because van der Stel planted a large number of oak trees there. It is also along the banks of the Eerste River, meaning First River.
I-R-S-T?
E-E-R-S-T-E. I'm not sure what language that is. I guess it's Dutch.
It's probably Dutch, yeah.
It means First River, and it was the first river that van der Stel reached when exploring the area.
Makes sense.
So creative of him.
Yep.
And it's also at the foot of the Stellenbosch mountain. So just a little bit about van der Stel. He was the son of Adrian van der Stel, an official of the Dutch East India Company, and Maria Levens, who was the daughter of a freed Indian slave woman. He was involved in winemaking in the Netherlands and also worked for the Dutch East India Company. In 1679, he was appointed commander of their colony at the Cape of Good Hope. He was the first Cape governor to be of mixed race origin, which was unacknowledged by the apartheid government.
Huh. So apartheid was obviously hundreds of years after this. So the apartheid government didn't recognize his mixed heritage, or they didn't recognize his time as governor?
You know what? I'm not sure.
Okay.
Whatever. Obviously, that they weren't thrilled by that.
Right.
But at the time, it wasn't that big a deal.
Right. Okay.
And in just 4 years after being founded, Stellenbosch became an independent local authority and the seat of a magistrate with jurisdiction over 25,000 square kilometers. The Dutch settlers were skilled at hydraulic engineering and built a system to direct water from the Eerste River to a mill which they had erected. In 1690, Huguenot refugees settled there and planted the grapes that made Stellenbosch the center of the South African wine industry.
Huh.
In the Second Boer War, Stellenbosch was one of the British military bases. Officers who had not distinguished themselves at the front were often sent back to it, which led to the expression to be Stellenboshed.
Okay.
And the expression was then used in similar cases, even if officers were sent back to another place.
Huh.
Another place. Stellenboshed.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the wine.
Yep.
The Stellenbosch, Paarl, and Franschhoek valleys form the Cape Winelands, which is the largest wine-growing region in South Africa. Stellenbosch is its primary location for viticulture research, And the Stellenbosch wine route, I'm going to say route from now on,
Yes,
was established in 1971 by Franz Mahlon, Spatz Sperling, and Neil Jobert. The wine region has hot, dry summers and cool, wet winters, and the soil from the Cape Fold mountain range also provides soil favorable for viticulture.
Okay.
I looked into the grapes and stuff, like nothing was particularly unique. It was...
Probably French grapes, right, if it was Huguenot refugees.
Yeah, it was pretty standard grapes.
Yeah, okay.
Cab and all that.
Okay.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I feel like I've heard of that, but I'm not too fussed that I didn't get that, frankly.
Okay. All right.
It's interesting. So my first game a few weeks back had a wine portion as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's funny, like a lot of the stuff that we're interested in just ends up intersecting in weird ways like that.
I want to write about things I'm interested
in.
in.
No, me too. Absolutely.
All right, ready for question 3?
Yes, bring it.
All right, arts and literature.
Okay.
The paintings, The Wine Glass and The Girl with the Wine Glass, 2 different paintings, were painted by this Dutch artist who specialized in domestic scenes of middle-class life.
Dutch, you said?
Dutch.
Okay. So, if it's Dutch, probably Rembrandt or Vermeer. I'll say Rembrandt.
It's Vermeer.
Fuck me. Now, see, if I were
You're 0 for 3. So
if I were you, I'd be arguing for half a point right now.
No, because I was arguing for half a point because I got half the question right, not because I thought of another answer that was right. I was hoping that the girl with the wine glass would like tip you off because a lot of his paintings were like the girl with the pearl earring and things like that. Okay. But you didn't get my hint.
No, that was a good hint though. Yep.
Thanks.
Okay.
Anywho, let me talk about Johannes Vermeer.
Yes, I know very little about him actually. So
yeah, I didn't.
I'm excited for this.
I didn't know much about him either. He was born in 1632. His father's name was Reinier Janzoon. I don't know. Don't memorize it.
What?
Don't worry about it.
That was not even syllables.
I tried. You don't want to know. It's fine. Look it up.
Like someone stepped on a toucan.
If you want to try pronouncing it yourself, let me know if you are, I don't know, from the Netherlands and know how to pronounce it.
All right, move on.
His father worked in silk and cloths, but in 1625 he began dealing in paintings. And when he died in 1652, Vermeer took over the family's art business. When Vermeer was 21, he married a Catholic girl named Catharina Bones, and her family insisted that he convert to Catholicism as he was baptized in the Reformed Church of Calvinism. Mm-hmm. It is believed that he converted with conviction because of his painting The Allegory of Faith, which placed more emphasis on religious symbolism than his other paintings, and I think it was sort of around that time.
I see.
The 2 of them eventually moved in with her wealthy mother, where Vermeer lived for the rest of his life. Katharina gave birth to 15 children,
Jeez.
4 of whom were buried before being baptized, which was pretty common back then, but still, loving kids, that's a lot.
Boy.
Yeah. So in terms of his painting career, at age 21, he became a member of the Guild of St. Luke, which was a trade association for painters. It is believed that his teacher was Karel Fabricius, who was a pupil of Rembrandt. So there's a connection. So it's kind of cool, like he was like Rembrandt's grand apprentice or whatever you want to call it.
That's cool.
Yeah, he had several teachers at the time who were popular painters besides this one. And he was moderately successful throughout his life, but was not wealthy, and he left his wife and children in debt when he died in 1675.
Oy.
So clearly not so successful during his lifetime.
Yeah.
It's believed that the debt was likely because the Netherlands was hit by a severe economic downturn in 1672 after the French army invaded. After he died, he basically fell into obscurity. His reputation did not begin to grow until he was rediscovered by German art historian Gustav Friedrich Wagen and French art critic Théophile Thorberger, and the 2 of them published an essay attributing 66 pictures to Vermeer, and since that time he has become acknowledged as one of the greatest painters of the Dutch Golden Age.
Oh.
So it's kind of crazy that he fell into obscurity for all this time and then came back.
I feel like that happens
made a comeback.
With quite a number of them though, right? Van Gogh was never successful in his life, and now his paintings are like the most expensive paintings in the world at auction. Yeah.
I think it just might be like the times, they weren't thinking about it at the time. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean some of these guys, they're so ahead of their own times, right? Like the stuff that they're doing, people don't even recognize how great it is until later.
Right.
Yeah.
So speaking of the details of his art, in his first paintings he used either monochrome shades or a limited palette of browns and grays. He frequently used expensive pigments and worked slowly and with great care. So he did work with expensive stuff. Of all the 17th century artists, he used the extremely expensive pigment lapis lazuli the most and the earliest in his career, probably because his wife's family was wealthy and he was just using that.
Is that how you pronounce that?
Lapis lazuli?
Yeah.
That's what I say. What do you say?
I always heard, well, maybe I haven't
Lapis
heard.
lazuli?
I always thought it was lapis lazuli, but I don't know why.
Oh, I don't know.
Huh.
I don't know, sorry.
I'm not sure. Well,
anyway, almost all of his paintings were set within 2 small rooms in his home in Delft.
Huh.
So he basically drew the room where he was and, picked what he was going to paint there.
Yeah.
You can see the same furniture and decorations displayed in different ways in the different paintings. Most of them also portray the same people, mostly women. His most famous painting is Girl with a Pearl Earring, which is now in the Mauritshuis Art Museum in The Hague. Tracy Chevalier wrote a historical novel about the painting, which was about the fictional circumstances of its creation, and the novel inspired a 2003 film starring Scarlett Johansson as the girl with the pearl earring.
Huh.
So that's probably like the most recent thing that would, I don't know,
right, okay.
why people might know him.
And then its sequel, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, came out
of
about
course.
a few years later.
Can't forget that one. No, not true. Not true.
I know.
I'm just saying for the listeners, I don't want people to believe our insanity.
All right. I think most of them probably know that those have nothing to do with each other.
I know. Okay. Ready?
For the next question?
Yeah.
I am ready.
All right. Sounds and screens.
Okay.
The name of this movie about the Paris wine tasting of 1976, starring Alan Rickman, Chris Pine, and Bill Pullman, is also a term for a temporary condition in a wine where its flavors are muted or disjointed.
What?
I'm stumping him.
Holy crap.
I don't think these are that hard, but it's all a hindsight thing.
Yeah. Okay, wait. I have no idea.
Do you want to take a guess?
I don't know. No, I have no idea.
Nothing.
No.
It's called bottle shock.
Huh. Okay. Never heard that term.
Anyway, I'm not going to talk at all about it. It's a temporary condition in a wine where its flavors are muted or disjointed.
Right, okay.
But it was the name of this movie about the Paris wine tasting of 1976, which is more famously known as The Judgment of Paris.
Yes.
Which you knew.
That one I know. Yes.
Okay. So anyway, I'm going to talk mostly about The Judgment of Paris. I'll talk a little bit about the movie.
Okay.
So anyway, The Judgment of Paris was a wine competition organized by Stephen Spurrier, a British wine merchant. The name Judgment of Paris comes from a story in Greek mythology. In the story, Zeus was to judge whom of Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite was the fairest, but because he didn't want to make the decision himself, he declared that Paris, a Trojan mortal, would judge it. So it's based on that, and also it was in Paris.
Right.
Anyway, at the wine tasting, French judges carried out 2 blind tasting comparisons at the competition, and one was of Chardonnays and the other was of red wines, which were Bordeaux's from France and Cabernet Sauvignons from California. In the end, the top-rated wines in both categories ended up being wines from California, which was very shocking.
Scandalous.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Stag's Leap, apostrophe S, apostrophe before the S.
Yep.
Just to clear that there are 2 Stag's Leaps. One is apostrophe before, one is apostrophe after. Stag's Leap, apostrophe S, wine cellars, 1973 Cab won for the best red wine, and Chateau Montelena Chardonnay won for the best white wine. Spurrier only sold French wine and was surprised when the California wines won. Afterwards, the French wine industry banned him from their wine tasting tour for a year. They were like, why did you think to do this and bring in these California wines, and now they're beating us, get out, go away.
Great.
Yeah. So since then, there have been a few replications of the tasting in order to see which wines have aged better. At the San Francisco wine tasting of 1978, the U.S.'s Chalone Winery won for the best Chardonnay, and Stag's Leap Wine Cellars Cab won again for the best red. At the French Culinary Institute tasting of 1986, the U.S.'s Clos Duval Winery Cabernet won for the best red. So even though it wasn't the same one, it was still a U.S. winery. So at that tasting, white wines weren't tasted because they believed that they were past their prime. At the Wine Spectator tasting, which was also in 1986, the U.S.'s Heights Wine Cellars won. Finally, in 2006, Spurrier held a 30th anniversary retastings on both sides of the Atlantic. Judges on both sides gave the top honors to a 1971 Ridge Montebello Cabernet. The top 5 were all from the U.S.
Wow.
Yeah.
So France won none of those tastings?
None.
Wow, that's
Not
amazing.
a one.
USA.
It's the funny part here is that we prefer French wine.
Yes, I know. We're both into French wines.
But now I'm rethinking. I don't know. I think the difference is that the wines we're tasting from France are probably overall better than the wine. Like, I think the wines from the US that are that quality are so expensive that we're not drinking them as much.
Yeah, less expensive French wines are definitely better than less expensive American
I feel
wines.
like that's the problem here.
For sure.
Someday we will have our own tasting where we get the good stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway,
once this podcast really gets big.
Yeah, I know. Once we make it in the podcast world. Anyway, the movie Bottle Shock is about Steven Spurrier, who is played by Alan Rickman.
Awesome.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace. In the movie, his best customer is a wine lover from Milwaukee who inspires Spurrier to hold a blind taste test to introduce Parisians to quality wines from other regions, which is random, like Milwaukee. I don't know if any of this is true. So Spurrier travels to Napa Valley, which wasn't famous at the time, and while there, he meets vintner Jim Barrett from Chateau Montelena, who is played by Bill Pullman, and he asks him to be part of the tasting. He thinks that the competition is a setup designed by the French to humiliate New World wine producers. So he says no.
Great.
But then Barrett's son, Beau, who's played by Chris Pine, secretly passes Spurrier a couple of bottles of their Chardonnay for the competition.
Okay. What year was this movie?
Sorry, the movie's from 2008.
2008, okay.
Yeah, so it's 10 years old.
Okay. So, I mean, this was like early Chris Pine then. He wasn't like...
Yeah, it was young Chris Pine.
Yeah.
If you feel like it, look it up. The way they made him look is like a surfer dude, and he's wearing this like blonde long wig. It's very silly.
Bad. Okay.
It looks ridiculous. Anyway, so as we know, Chateau Montelena in real life won the Chardonnay competition.
Yeah, that's cool.
So in the movie, I don't know about real life.
Right.
They only won because the son secretly gave him the
long hair Chris Pine. Yeah. Passed him a bottle. Great.
Thanks, long hair Chris Pine. In the end of the movie, they show how Spurrier hosted the 30th anniversary competition and how Barrett continues to make wine in his 80s. Apparently, Spurrier said that very little of the script was true and that it was, quote, deeply insulting. So, yeah.
Awesome.
And the movie got mixed reviews and had a 49% on Rotten Tomatoes, if you trust that. I don't really know. But I have never heard of it before, so that's not
I've never heard of
not
this
a
movie
good sign. But I do like Alan Rickman, and I also like Bill Pullman.
Yeah, they're great.
And I don't dislike Chris Pine.
Yeah. When you started the question, you were like, what movie about wine? I was like, it's Sideways. And then it
well,
wasn't.
that's why I couldn't ask about Sideways, because I was thinking, what's a movie about wine? I was like, well, I can't talk about Sideways.
Yeah. Damn. Okay.
That is the wine
it's
movie.
The
I was
one,
like, are there other movies? And this is pretty cool, because The Judgment of Paris was a big thing in...
Yeah. It's a huge deal historically.
It's a good idea for a movie. I guess it wasn't.
Apparently it wasn't executed
I think maybe if they had made it a little more historically accurate, it could have been better. But Spurrier was deeply insulted by it. Ouch. All right. Question 5. Sports and games.
Okay.
Which athlete owns a Niagara winery whose wine club is called the Number 99 Club? That is all you get.
Well, I think that's all I need.
It should be.
It has to be the great one, Wayne Gretzky.
It is.
Thank God I didn't get shut out this game.
I know. We know that you got one so far.
So we're tied 6-6 now. Okay.
You feel better now?
I feel good that I didn't get shut out, yeah.
Because you know the great one.
Yes.
So, for anyone who doesn't know, Wayne Gretzky is a former professional ice hockey player and former head coach. After he retired, the NHL retired his jersey number 99 league-wide, making him the only player to receive this honor.
Yep.
So he's the only one whose number was retired league-wide.
Yes.
Which is pretty cool. So I'm going to tell you all about Wayne Gretzky.
Okay. Let's see if you have my favorite Wayne Gretzky fact in there. I bet you do.
I have every Wayne Gretzky fact in here. It's kind of long, but I like him.
All right,
it's fun. So he was born on January 26, 1961 in Brantford, Ontario. Several months after he was born, his parents purchased a house, which was chosen partly because its backyard was flat enough to build an ice rink on each winter.
Okay.
So this was like his parents just knew from the beginning. It was like his prophecy.
Yeah.
So his father, Walter, built the rink, which was nicknamed the Wally Coliseum.
Awesome.
And he taught Wayne and his siblings hockey drills, and it was immediately clear that Wayne was a prodigy. He started playing for a local team at age 6. The rest of the team were 10-year-olds, and because Wayne was so small, he had to tuck the sweater, which was designed for a 10-year-old, into his pants on the right side because he was too small to fit.
Yeah.
And he continued to tuck his jersey into his pants throughout the entirety of his NHL career.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? Like, just the
Yeah,
habit. Like,
that's funny.
Because he was so good and was playing with kids 4 years his senior.
That's insane.
Yeah, he was that good. Anyway, at age 16, he played a year in the Ontario Major Junior Hockey League for the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. He wanted to be number 9 after his hero Gordie Howe, but since his teammate already had number 9, he went with 99 instead. In 1978, he was recruited by the World Hockey Association, which was competing with the NHL at the time. He joined the Indianapolis Racers and proceeded to score his first and second professional goals within 5 seconds against Dave Dryden, who was Ken Dryden's brother, who played for Cornell. Anyway, Dave Dryden was on the Edmonton Oilers.
Okay. So he scored 2 goals within 5 seconds of each other? Is that what you said?
Yes, he scored a goal, and then he scored another goal 4 seconds later.
What?
Yeah, and those were his first 2 professional goals.
Wow, okay. Because
he is the great one.
Yeah.
After 8 games of playing for Indianapolis, he moved to the Edmonton Oilers himself.
Yep.
He signed a $3 million Canadian dollars. I don't know how much difference that makes. 10-year contract with them, with the Oilers, which was the longest contract in hockey history at the time. But the WHA folded after that season, so it fell apart. When the Oilers joined the NHL in 1979, they were allowed to protect 2 goaltenders and 2 skaters from being reclaimed by established NHL, not NFL, teams, and they, of course, kept Gretzky on their roster.
Obviously.
In his first season in the NHL, Gretzky was given the Hart Memorial Trophy awarded to the league's MVP and tied with Marcel Dion for the scoring lead with 137 points. He went on to get 8 of these awards in a row. He did not, however, get the Art Ross Trophy because Marcel Dion scored more goals, technically. But he received that trophy the next 7 years in a row, so it's okay. He still holds the record for the highest point total by a rookie in NHL history to this day. However, he was ineligible for the Calder Memorial Trophy given to the top NHL rookie because he was in WHA the previous season.
He wasn't new to professional hockey.
Right, so he couldn't get that one.
That makes sense.
It's okay. We'll give him some slack. He has a lot of awards.
Yeah.
Between 1982 and 1985, he averaged 207 points per season, when no player had scored more than 152 in a season previously.
That is incredible.
I know. It is said that he changed the gameplay of hockey altogether by involving all of his teammates equally rather than taking the puck himself while his teammates tried to direct attention elsewhere, which was how the game was played prior to that.
Right.
You know, I read some stuff about him, and he was just talking about, like, open space and, like, go where the puck's going, not where the puck is, and, like, it's all very, like, you could tell he's just thinking at another level, and that's why he's so good. After the Oilers won the Stanley Cup in 1988, Gretzky was traded to the LA Kings, and many Canadians were pretty upset. However, after the 88-89 season, a life-size bronze statue of Gretzky was erected outside the Northlands Coliseum, which is where the Oilers play. So they didn't hold him against it.
Well, he was still playing for another team.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
After he played for the St. Louis Blues for a year, he rejected a $15 million 3-year deal with them and signed with the New York Rangers, whoop whoop, as a free agent. He played for the Rangers from 1996 to 1999, which is when he retired. I just realized that he retired in 99.
Awesome.
That is awesome. Anyway, he was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1999 right after retiring, and he was the 10th and last player to bypass the 3-year waiting period to get into the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Wow.
So just a couple of more fun random things. After batting .492 for the Junior Intercounty Baseball League's Brantford CKCP Braves in 1980, he was offered a contract by the Toronto Blue Jays.
Whoa.
Did you know?
No.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
It's true. And in 2011, his son Trevor signed with the Chicago Cubs.
Wow.
Talk about an athletic family.
Yeah, jeez.
He's like the Michael Jordan of hockey.
Except Michael Jordan was terrible at baseball.
But he actually played baseball.
Right.
But anyway, Gretzky also played lacrosse, which is where he learned to protect himself from hard checks.
Wow.
Of course he played lacrosse.
Yeah.
Of course. Anyway, back to Gretzky's association with wine. His winery and distillery, called Wayne Gretzky Estates, is in the heart of Niagara-on-the-Lake. It is the first facility in the region to feature both wine and distilling production, and it has a summer water feature next to the Great Lawn, which becomes an ice rink in winter, which is pretty cool.
Of course it does.
Of course. I want to go and drink wine and go skating.
Okay.
Seems fun. So did I get your fun Wayne Gretzky fact in there?
No, you didn't.
Oh,
so
man.
My favorite Wayne Gretzky fact, because this is just the most insane thing I've ever heard. Wayne Gretzky is the NHL's all-time leader in points, right? Points being goals plus assists.
Yep.
If Wayne Gretzky had never scored a single goal in his career, he would still be the NHL's all-time leader in points just on the back of his assists.
But it all comes back to the point that, it all comes back to the part where I was talking about his different style of gameplay.
Yes.
Because all of the other leading players just tried to score goals themselves.
Yeah.
It just goes to show what a team player he was.
Yeah, definitely.
And, that's why he won so much, and that's why he has so many points, because he, totally knew that it's a team sport and that by working together, that's how you win. That's it.
Yeah. That is fucking incredible, though, that if he had never scored a single goal, he would still be the all-time leader in points.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Crazy.
We'll have to go to his winery.
Yeah,
I've never been to Niagara, so.
It's really nice. I love Niagara. It's really cool.
We got to go.
All right, hit me.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
I think you might be able to get one more.
All right.
Well, this is your last chance. Science. What scientific process named for one of the two main acids found in wine and the other acid to which it's converted is part of secondary fermentation of wine, in which a tart-tasting wine becomes softer tasting?
I think I do know this one. It's malolactic fermentation.
Yes, it is.
Yes! Back in the lead.
I was holding it off there until the very end.
Yeah. I was like, fuck, acids. What are the acids
You thought
in
I was
wine?
going to shut you out.
Yeah. Well, no, because I got Gretzky.
No, I mean, until the last question. Now you got the last two, so now you feel better.
Yes, I do.
All right, so malolactic fermentation. So basically, tart-tasting malic acid is converted to the softer-tasting lactic acid.
Yeah.
It is either done in secondary fermentation right after the primary fermentation, or it's sometimes done concurrently with the primary fermentation, which is when the grapes become the wine.
Yeah.
It is the standard for most red wine production and is also common for some white grapes such as Chardonnay, which gives it that buttery flavor that some people like.
Yep, some people
We're
like
not
that.
those people.
No.
The compound that gives it the buttery flavor is actually a byproduct of malolactic fermentation, which is called diacetyl.
I thought the butteriness came from the oak aging, from the oak itself. It's from the fermentation that happens in the oak?
Yeah, it's from secondary fermentation, malolactic fermentation.
I didn't know that.
Yep. So Chardonnays that have undergone, I'm going to call it MLF, just to make it simple. Chardonnays that have undergone MLF are usually described as having notes of hazelnut and dried fruits and an aroma of freshly baked bread. Red wines that have undergone MLF are often described as having chocolate notes and a roasted aroma. However, MLF may diminish the primary fruit aromas of red wines such as Pinot Noir.
Yeah, okay.
So I think it's done more so for the darker reds
that
aren't as fruity.
And the bigger whites, it sounds like, as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So when modern microbiology came about, Pasteur isolated the first bacteria from wine and determined that any bacteria in wine would cause it to spoil. He thought that the acid reduction in wine was just from tartrate precipitation. In 1891, Mueller theorized that the acid reduction was caused by bacteria. So this was sort of how they started to figure this out.
Yeah.
So the process of malolactic fermentation is done by lactic acid bacteria, including Enococcus eini, Lactobacillus, and Pediococcus species. This can happen naturally, but in commercial winemaking, it's usually initiated by an inoculation of bacteria, which is usually the Enococcus eini, and that's done to prevent the undesirable bacteria from affecting the flavor of the wine. So it's just very controlled. Some winemakers believe that if malolactic fermentation is happening while the wine is in the barrel, there will be better integration of fruit and oak character. So that must be why you can get it confused with just putting it in the oak.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So malolactic fermentation can also be prevented in wines that are meant to remain more fruity and floral, such as Riesling and Gewürztraminer. So they don't have any MLF. Wines undergoing malolactic fermentation are cloudy because of the bacteria. Mm-hmm. And MLF occurring in the bottle is considered a wine fault. But for the wine Vino Verde from Portugal, this was a distinguishing trait, and it's what caused its slight effervescence. And nowadays, most Vino Verde producers do the malolactic fermentation prior to bottling and instead just add artificial carbonation, which is sad.
Yeah.
But it's still like the distinguishing thing of Vino Verde, but that's why it became a distinguishing trait for that grape.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, all in all, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep. Now I want some wine.
Yeah. Let's go drink wine.
Yes.
All right.
All right. You got your 2 points.
Yep. So.
All right.
7-6, right?
Yep.
Okay.
We will see next time if I can take the lead back.
In the meantime, email us or tweet us at quizandhers@gmail.com or at quizandhers on Twitter, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye. So
But
it
keep in mind,
seems like I have a lead, but I really don't, but
Yes.
it's okay.
I get my last licks at the end of the season, so even if you're leading after the 9th episode, I get the bottom of the 9th inning to come back and win.
That's not true. I do.
No.
Yeah.
It's 10 episodes in a season.
Yeah, you're the odd ones and I'm the even ones.
Yeah, I
go last.
I answer the even ones.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I ask on
So
the
you're
even
up.
ones.
You're up by one question, but that's because you've
You're
had
right.
one more game than I have.
I see. You're
Yes.
right. You're right.
All right.